Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are dedicated by Shalom Fogli and Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yehuda Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Tzim ben Yaakov Zeb, and Refu Shalema for Moshe Arya ben Miriam, and for a great shidduch for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, by Baruch Ian Lila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba Esther Bas Yonah, Avram ben Shmuel HaKohen, Refu Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, great shidduch for Batya Bas Sarah, and Refu Shalema for Yosef Shmuel ben Miriam, and a healthy mommy, healthy baby, especially for Ariel and Lior Bas Elza Rivka. We also, what?
Can I give a name as well?
Yeah.
Chaim Rafael ben Sarah.
Chaim Rafael ben Sarah, Moshe Meir ben Esther Fadl, Chai Tzvi ben Ruskana, David Yoel ben Razel. We also learn for all the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael who are in terrible harm's way. They are firing new generation missiles. We see what a tragedy happened in Beit Shemesh. So terrible. And our hearts and our minds are with Yidden in Eretz Yisrael and with Jews world over. Jews are now have a target on their back wherever they are, from the Mishagoyim in the world. We want to welcome in Michael and Yisrael Fisher, Dr. Guy, Mel Zachter, Marshall Castle, Yaakov Warman, Shalom Fogel, Mark Frankel, Chaim Kramer, Shelley Zeitlin, Saba, Dr. Black, Ruben Shannet, I think that's Benzine Cohn, Berish Gesserman, A.B. Spry, Eddie Chazan, Menachem Umansky, Nachman Chapler, Rabbi Kranz, Yitzi Fuchs, Barry Cement, Chaim Lerner, Dr. Eisenberg, Gedalia Engels, Shimon Klein, Stephen Holtzman, A. Barbach, Rebellia Yaffe, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman, Gabriel Epstein, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Avram Rezepkowitz. What a wonderful group. Wow, what a wonderful group. Okay, so now we're holding top line of Mem Tes Amud Aleph. Tani Rabba Bar Chana Kamei Derav. Here's a strange thing. We need a strange person. Barry. Kifsei Atzeres Sheshachtan L'Shum Eilim. He took lambs of Atzeres and he shechted them having in mind rams. So ksherim, it's kosher, but how could it be good if he thought they were rams? It's not ma'akiv, it doesn't ruin the carbon, but the community doesn't fulfill the mitzvah. Amalei Rav says no, alav alu. Amar Rav Chisda, Mistavra Milsa de Rav. Where does Rav say it's even good and the community is yaitze? It's talking about Bekisavar Elim, where Barry thought that they were rams, but shechted them as sheep. So at the end of the day, he shechted rams. At the end of the day, he shechted sheep, and he had a mind sheep. The fact that he thought that they were rams, big deal. Mistaver Milsa Derab because Savar Elim v'shachtin l'shum kvasim. Because at the end of the day, everything was right. They were sheep, and he had a mind sheep. Shari kvasim l'shum kvasim l'shatim. Aval kisavar Elim, but if he thought that they were rams, v'shachtim l'shum Elim, so how could that be? How could that be good for the community? That's an akira. Although it was an akira b'tois, that's light. That's no good because akira b'tois have akira. Now Rabbah disagrees. Rabbah says since Barry made a mistake, and the only reason he had in mind a ram is because he thought they were a ram. Rabbah akira b'tois lo have akira. So this has to be Rabbah, because Rabbah is the one that said it, and now Rabbah says you could ask on what I say, that Akira B'Tos is not an Akira. Amar Rabbah u'moisvin ashmaiten. They ask on my decision. It says HaKohanim shepiglu b'mikdash. This is Eddie. If Eddie is mefagel somebody's carbon, having in mind when he shechts it to eat it after it's time, and it's Abi's carbon, Mezidin, if Eddie did it on purpose, Chayavim, he has to reimburse Abi for his carbon. Hashayim B'turin. But if he did it b'shayim, now in another Masechta it asked why b'shayim should be pater. It says Adamul Lailam. But that's a question for another Masechta. But the bottom line is it says Hashayim B'turin. If Eddie did it b'shayim, it's pater, but it is pigel. V'tani Allah pigul and pigel. So the question is, how do you do pigel b'shogeg? Only Eddie could do this, because Eddie is a pigelist, not a bigamist, a pigelist. How do you do pigel b'shogeg? So hechi dami, which is maramas to Barry. Hechi dami.
I'm here.
Ilema diyoda dechatasi. If it's talking about that Eddie knew it was a chatas, which is only eaten for one day and one night, but he had in mind that he was going to eat it like a shlamim, so he had in mind eating it chutzlas manai, then that's not a shaygig, that's amazing. If he knew it was a chatas and he had in mind shlamim, that's high shaygig and mezidanav. Elalav, the kesav shlamimu. He thought it was a shlamim. And we're saying that even so, since it's a chatas, it's pigel. So that means that akira b'tois have akira, b'kitani pigul and pigel. Alma akira b'tois, because he was akira b'tois. He only had in mind to eat it for 2 days and one night because he thought it was a shlamim. So we see akira b'tois have akira. Says well, no, that's not the case. He knew it was a chatas and he had in mind a shlamim. So then, if that's the case, then that should be mazed. Why is it shaygig? The reason why it's shaygig is because he thought that that's allowed. It's pigel because at the end of the day he had in mind a chatas to eat it kutzlas mana. But he's pater from paying because he was a shaygig because he thought it was mutter. So now, Masiv Reb Zera. Now this was an idea that we learned earlier in the Masechta, much earlier in the Masechta. That where do we say that your machshava disqualifies? That's when your ma'isa doesn't contradict your machshava. But by menachos, where your ma'isa contradicts your machshava, then the machshava doesn't pass. Master Reb Zera, Reb Shimon Aimer, kol menachos shenikbetzu shaloi lishman. All menachos that you did the kmitza shaloi lishman, ksheris, v'alu l'bal mashum chayv. Why? Now, even though most korbanos, if you do shaloi lishma, it's kosher, but you don't fulfill your requirement. Here, you fulfill your requirement. Why? Because if you did a griddle and you said you had in mind the deep fry, but your action belies that because you're doing it in a griddle. Sheina menachos daimel izvachim. Shakaimitz machbatz l'shem acheshes. When you do a griddle having in mind that it's deep fried, maaseh meichichan ala shi machbatz, because you're doing it in a griddle. You're bringing a minchas chayte, which is without oil, and you have in mind that it should be with oil. You don't have oil. Al Zvachim Eina came, because everything is the same. Shrita achas l'kula, Kabbalah achas l'kula, Zrika achas l'kula. So now what's the case that we say that the mincha that's done Shaloi Lishman is kosher? Hechi dami. Ilema de yoda de machbasi, that you know it's a griddle, and you say you're doing it as a deep fry. So what? You're uprooting it. And this is not even an akira b'taz. Elalav, the kasava marcheshasi. It must be that you're doing a machbas, and you thought it was a marcheshes. Why? Because of a ta. You made a mistake. You thought it was marcheshes. At the end, it was machbas. So it was an akira b'taz. But we see from here that akira b'taz is only good when your action belies your akira. And the hachahu the maaser moichichan aleh haba alma, but everywhere else akira b'taz habi akira, which is a kasha and rabba. Says Gemara, Amalei Abaye la'olam diyoda de machbasi. You know it's a griddle, and you're accurate. The kakomet sol l'shumar cheshes. And even so, we say that it's kosher. Because where does a machshava passel? When the machshava is not contradicted by your action. The ka'amrit ki ma'aseh ma'achichan aleh mai have. Says the Gemara, Rava l'tamei, the Amar Rava machshava d'loi minkara pasel rachmana. Only a machshava that's not contradicted by what you're doing disqualifies. Machshava de minkara, but a machshava that's recognizably not so by what you're doing, loy pasel rachmana. That's not possible. Now, hatmidim ein ma'akvin es ha'musafim. The Talmud doesn't invalidate the musaf. V'lo ha'musafim akvin es hatmidim. The musaf doesn't invalidate the tmidim. V'lo ha'musafim akvin says if there's several musafim, and you could only bring some of them, the ones that you don't bring are not ma'akiv, the ones that you bring. What happens if you didn't bring the oilas tamid in the morning? Do you bring the one in the afternoon? Lo yakrivu keves b'bayker, yakrivu bein abayim. You bring the one in the afternoon. Amar Rab Shimon, Eimasai, bizman shoya einsin oy shogigen. Well, you didn't bring it in the morning because of an einus, you didn't have a sheep, or because of an accident, you didn't realize the time. Avalima you're mezidin, but if you didn't bring it deliberately, then we kansin. Lo yakrivu keves b'bayker, lo yakrivu bein abayim. Then we kansin, you can't bring the half in the afternoon. Let's say they didn't have incense in the morning. Supposed to bring a chatzi mana in the morning and a chatzi mana in the afternoon. Lo yaktiru k'tairis b'bayker. K'tairis is very good for refuah. Should be refuah for everybody. Lo yaktiru k'tairis b'bayker. Yaktiru bein abayim. You could still bring it in the afternoon, and in the afternoon you don't just bring a half a mana, you bring the full amount. Amar Reb Shimon v'kulo yisakrei v'bein abayim. Because we find a time where in the afternoon you bring a full mana. The halacha is if you have a new mizbeach hazav, the chinuch of the new mizbeach hazav is by bringing a k'tairis of a mana in the afternoon. She'ein mechanchen es mizbeach hazav. If they inaugurate a new Mizbeach Hazav, they do it al b'k'tairis hasamim with a full mana of k'tairis in the afternoon. V'loi Mizbeach ha'ila, if they're inaugurating a new Mizbeach hachitzin, ela b'tamid shel shachar, with the tamid of the morning. V'loi es ha'shulchan, if they're inaugurating a new shulchan, ela b'lechem hapanim b'shabbos. V'loi es ha'menayra, and if they're inaugurating a menayra, ela b'shiva ne'reseh bein abayim, by lighting its 7 lamps in the afternoon. Now here's an interesting shayla. Boimine Rab Chia bar Avin merav Kista. Tzibur she'ein lahem tmidim u'musafin. Chas v'shalom. The tzibur was very poor, and they didn't have a lamb for the tamid and the musaf. Eize mehen kaidim. Which comes first? The tamid or the musaf? Obviously we're talking about on Shabbos or on a Yom Tov. So the Gemara says, Heki dami. It's Shabbos. And the shaila is whether you bring the tamid of Shabbos or the musaf of Shabbos. That's a davar pashut. They're both holy. And the tamid is more frequent. It's 365 days a year. So tadu b'shen tadu kaidim. Pshita tamidim adifa. That's for sure that the tamid comes first. Davali tadur u'mekudesh. Because the tamid is both tadur and holy because it's on Shabbos. While the musaf is only holy. The shaila must be elatmidim delamacha u'musafin da'in. We have a lamb that we could use for Shabbos' musaf or Sunday's tamid. So here, the musaf is holy, but the tamid is tadir. Tmidei adife shekain tadir, because it's more frequent. Aydilma musafin adife, the musaf is more davalu mekudesh. So Amalei, so he says, isn't that what our Mishnah is telling us? Tani tu'a tmidim ein ma'akvin es ha-musafim, v'lei ha-musafim ma'akvin es ha-tmidim, v'lei ha-musafim ma'akvin zeh. Now, hechi dami, ilema de isla, you have enough, and it's telling us that you could do, the order is not ma'akiv, ulekadem, it's telling you it's not ma'akiv, you could do the tamid first, you could do the musaf first, but that's not true. How do we know that there shouldn't be anything brought before the tamid of the morning? With the hey ayadiyah. Rabba, why does it say ha'ayla? Ayla rishayna. It must be, and it's talking about where you don't have enough. Elapshita the lesle. You either could bring a tamid or a musaf. The yomei, and if it's talking about for the day, what do you mean? Am I tadir mekudesh tadir adif? That's clear that the tamid would be ma'akiv. You would have to use it for the tamid and not for the musaf. Elalav, it must be dilamacha, that you have either to use it for the musaf of Shabbos or the tamid of the next day. And it's telling you could go either way. It could go either way. It says, well, no. Here it's talking about that you could do the musaf before the tamid. We said that there shouldn't be anything before the tamid shel shachar. That's only mitzvah b'alma. That's only a preference, but it's not ma'akiv. So now there's a halacha. You know, in baseball you have a bullpen. La'avdol elef alofim v'rivei revavis pa'amim. For the carbon tamid there was a sheep pen, and they always needed to have in the sheep pen 6 sheep. 6 checked sheep that were tmimim. And that's based on the fact that if Rosh Hashanah fell out after Shabbos, you wouldn't be able to purchase 6 tmidim. Right? 2 for Shabbos and 4 for Rosh Hashanah. Says the Gemara, Tashma, Ein poichsin mishisha tloim amuvukorin. We never have less than 6 sheep that are checked. Velishkas hatloim in the sheep pen. Kidei l'Shabbos, enough for Shabbos, u'lishnei yom tovim shel Rosh Hashanah. Now, Normally, we need a lot more than that, because we also need for the Musafim. Hechidami ide is like to meet the Musafim, tuvahab. Then you need much more than 6. Elalav, the less like you only have 6, and we see that we bring even the Tamid of the next day before the Musaf of that day. Vishmami not to meet the Nadife. Says, no, you're getting this all wrong. There's special din that you need sheep for the Tamid in the bullpen 4 days before. This din only applies to the Tamid and not the Musaf. You have to meet them you have sheep for the Musaf. But there's a special din that you need to have for the Tamid that they're checked 4 days before. There has to be 6 sheep already examined in the sheep pen, Dalid Yomim Kaidim Shrita, 4 days before the shechting of the Tamid. Because we learn it out from the Korban Pesach. Umani ben Bagbagi. Ben Bagbag was a ger. It's called Bag because Bag is Gematria 5. So it's Ben Avraham that had hay added to his name, and Ben Sarah that had a hay added to his name. That's the same thing as the name Ben Hey. The Tanya Ben Bagbag Oimer Menayin L'Tamid Shiton Biker Dalid Yomim Kaidim Shrita. How do we know that the Tamid has to be checked 4 days before the Shrita? Talmud Leimer, it says by the Tamid, Tishmeru, you should guard it, lahakriv li b'mayday, to bring it at its appointed time. Lahalanu, I remember by the Korban Pesach, in Mitzrayim, it says, V'aya lachem l'mishmeres ad arba eser yom. It says on the 10th day, Mishchu k'chu lachem tzayin, Shabbos HaGadol, and it'll be ready for the 14th. Malahalan ton bikar arba yomim, it has the 4 days, kaidim shrita. Afkan here too, ton bikar arba yomim, kaidim shrita. Wow, Rabbi say, we did it. It was a big job. So now I have a surprise for the Eilam. I already did the Mishnah Yomis earlier. It says, as a matter of fact, it's on all systems already. We're going to have now a shorter shir called for the Purim table. So anybody that wants to join us can join us for a shir called for the Purim table.
Rabbi, what time is that tomorrow?
Okay, yes, very important. Daf Yomi tomorrow is 5:45. I know. I don't have a choice. I know. Bring your computer to shul.
As under with that, it's going to be this mind is going to be leaning Marav and Megillah, right?
No, you won't, because the Marav by us is 6:15. Actually, Marav by us is a lot later than that. Marav by us is 6:40, I believe. Yeah, Marav by us is 6:40.
All right.
But I'm going to do it faster. So if Marshall, what's the matter?
Can't make that at all.
Why?
I'm the only one. Don't change anything.
I'm saying, but why can't you?
Won't let me do that.
Why can't you?
Because we're 4:45 at that point.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry.
I can't say anything about it. I can't make it. So
I'm sorry. It's a very hard time. Normally, I would do it later in the night. I can't do it because my wife has a simcha with her immediate family right after the Megillah. So I have to go to the simcha. So it's my only choice. Purim on the day, I don't blame anything on my wife. If I have to blame something, I blame it on you. On Purim, the daf is 8:45. Mincha here in shul is 8:30. Amarav here is in shul 8:30. We're going to need all the help we can get for that. and Daf is at 8:45.